Good morning, YouTube. And if you're watching this as a rerun instead of the live side of things here, you can skip ahead 15 minutes or so, and that'll get you where you need to be. Get everybody hooked up right away, or should we wait here? Let's start. That's loud in my ear. I think that's one of them. Morning, Waylon. Morning, Kevin.
Hello, this is Will.
Will Scott Bachmeyer, Dakota Prairie Outdoors. How are you?
Good morning, Scott. I'm doing great.
Good deal. Good deal. We are just a heads up. We do a little preview on YouTube Live. So we're live on YouTube. So just a heads up on that.
I'll try not to say any cuss words and have my kids do the same.
Well, that's fine. That's fine. I appreciate that quite a bit. I'm going to give Oren a call here quick, too. Get both you guys stand by.
You bet. I'll hang on the line.
You bet.
This is Oren.
Oren Scott Bachmeyer, how are you this morning?
Awesome. How are you, Scott?
Hey, it's I woke up. A lot of people can't say that. I'm pretty happy about that.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I agree.
Will, can you hear Oren as well?
I can hear Oren loud and clear and sweetly.
All right.
Hi. Good morning, Will.
Hey, partner.
Well, we got a few minutes here. I usually do a little preview on YouTube just to make sure everybody's hooked up. Radio stations take the feed from YouTube as well, so I make sure they are all hooking up and all that good stuff. So we still have about 10 minutes before we get into the actual program.
So this ain't on TikTok then, huh?
TikTok? No, it's not on TikTok. I was watching some of those clips on the hearings on the national side when they asked I can't remember who it was. They asked him, so does TikTok like hook up to your Wi-Fi in your house? And the Chinese guy's like, yeah, of course it does. How else is it going to work? Some of the questions I thought were like, that was not really a great question,
No.
So
they really didn't go into some of that very prepared at all. So,
no, they didn't. No, they didn't.
Yeah.
South Dakota outlawed it, right, for state employees, right?
That's right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. State employees and agencies are not supposed to have it on their computers. Yeah.
Okay. But they can have it on their personal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, we got the Mayor Mobridge chimed in here. He says good morning. Eric out of the Pier area says good morning. A couple radio stations are logging in here. Minnesota text message from Minnesota's chiming in.
Anything in particular you want us to be ready to talk with you about, Scott?
Not really anything in particular. I'm on the Game and Fish Parks website here, and just some of I got House bills and Senate bills. I mean, there's not a whole lot. You guys are kind of a little bit more landowner friendly in South Dakota with the Game and Fish than North Dakota side is sometimes. So, but I don't like to have a set kind of a script or anything. I just like it to be a bullshitting session. So, if that's okay with you guys, and
that's fine.
I've never turned down a bullshitting session.
I just I tried that. I had a few interviews I did, and they sent me an email of this is what you can ask and this is what you can't. I'm like, that's not really my style. The phone lines are going to be open today. If people want to call in and ask you guys questions, let them do that. I'll control the phone on this end, and if it gets out of hand, we'll just cut them off. Easy as that. So,
yep.
I mean,
It's Scott. How long were you at SDSU?
Okay, good question. I moved down to Brookings in 2002. And I was down there for, I think, 2001 or 2. And I was down there for 6-7 years.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was teaching at SDSU. Toward the later part of that year, the last probably about 4 years I was there with their athletic department.
Yep. Yeah, I've heard you say that before on radio. I just didn't know how long you was there.
Yeah.
So.
I won a lot of money on that football game.
Yeah, you did.
Of course, everybody up here is NDSU guys, right? I mean, everybody. And
you baited that thing pretty well.
Oh, heavily. Heavily. I did it right away when I found out that SDSU and NDSU were going that night. And I'm not a sports guy. I just don't follow that stuff very much. But when I found out about it, I texted probably 6 or 7 people right away. And I was like, hey, you want to put a bet? And they're like, absolutely, right? Absolutely. And then like a week went by and they text back because, they're like, well, instead of money, how about like this one guy's like a bottle of whiskey, but the bottle of whiskey's got to be over $100 whiskey. I'm like, that's fine. So after the first quarter, I text that guy. I'm like, I would like probably this whiskey. And he's like, oh, I like how people get cocky right away. And after the first quarter, and then I sent the second and third, and after the game was done, and he didn't talk to me for a little while. So, and then I got a SDS. Then I pulled out the SDSU jersey and wore it to one of the local taverns up here. And one of the biggest NDSU fans freaks in the live, and he's a big boy. He came up and picked me up in the air and sat me on top of the bar, and then he bought me a shot. Big boy. All right, stations 70000 on mark. All right, so 6 minutes to go, guys. I'm going to do my weekly ivermectin shot here. Keep the bugs away. Did you get feeding done this morning, Oren?
I did. Yep, got it done early. And I was just thinking ivermectin. We weaned fall calves here a month ago or so, and I think between quirky guns, bad hoses, and lids on top of everything, yeah, I should be parasite free for a little bit anyway. I wouldn't say I drank any, but I dang sure took a bath in it a few times.
Oh man. Yeah, when at this point, we should be worrying about ticks. The weather just isn't warming up in my area worth a hoot right now. We had 2 days, the last 2 days we had, I think, 40 and 43 degrees. So we started melting a little bit here. Rivers are from the south. We have the little Missouri River comes through our ranch. And that thing, it comes down from Wyoming, and they must be a lot warmer down in that area because it started breaking up the ice and pushing up this way already. So yesterday,
was that the V3 crossing?
3V. Yep, the 3V crossing. 3V. Yep. Yeah, that is the only way to get you have to go to I-94, the interstate, or down to Highway 12 is the only other 2 places to cross that. Or this one. And this one right now, starting today, is impassable. So, and that's the reason I do those updates on my Facebook pages, because there's so many people that use this road to cross over. And our next door neighbors here, they can't even get to their cows this morning. So we'll probably have to go over and feed them for them.
Yep. Will, you in Fort Pierre, or are you up at the ranch?
I'm in Fort Pierre. I'm heading out there tomorrow. I'm here today.
Yep.
Will, do you run cattle in, or?
I'm a day labor hand. I'm probably out 30 days a year. We're calving heavy. I was out last weekend.
Okay.
From now till June, I'd probably get in 15, 20 days, and then they put me out to pasture in the summer.
Nice.
I told him about 5 years ago. I do no haying. I'm out of that game.
Oh,
I'm
is that
bad
right?
at it. I get frustrated when shit breaks. I'm not that guy. I just don't. You don't want me in on that.
Yeah, I actually got a phone call the other day. A guy that's ways away from me. He's about an hour away, and he says, "Hey Scott," he says, "I have grain sorghum that's 4 foot tall, full of snow. When it melts, would you want to hay that for hay or not?"
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, "When do you suppose the snow is going to melt out of there?" And he's like, "We don't know. Probably in middle of May, right?" So I might be haying at the end of April, first part of May for the first time in my life, that early. So, but where I live here in the Badlands of North Dakota, there's not a whole lot of hay ground. It's good grazing, but
Yep.
when the grazing ground like this year, I've been feeding since the 1st of November, so we haven't had much open ground.
There's pretty good prairie snowpack out there, Scott. I mean,
There
we
is.
can get good runoff into the river this year off the prairie.
Yeah, we will. Yeah. Yeah, it's good this year. It's moisture, and I'm okay with that, but I'm not used to having this much snow in this area. Definitely above our normal inches per year.
I'd say we're a little bit above normal here, but we had to be. I mean,
hey, you guys were pretty dry in that area, weren't you?
Yeah, it's just but we dug out dams. The last time they were dug out that I could remember was 1982 or 83. They cleaned out all the dams, replaced some drop tubes and spillways, and that's all done and ready. So bring it, I guess. I'd really like to get my cows off a rural water system.
Yeah. Well, my father-in-law were talking yesterday a little bit about the runoff, and granted, we don't rely on any dugouts or dams on our property. We have springs and artesian water and well water pretty much everywhere. Rural water stopped about 8 miles away. Then the rest of the neighbors got mad and didn't want it, so we're not on rural water. But we're talking the same thing. These dugouts and dams need to be flushed out, and this will be a good thing this spring. But it's slowly melting, so it's not going to be like a really good flush like, if it was 60 degrees one day and everything broke loose. But I think the slow melt's okay too. It's going to be soaking into the ground a little bit better. But guys, stand by. We're about 45 seconds away from starting the program. Stand by. I'm going to go quiet here. Stations 705-30, 705-30, 805-30 Central Time. And that is on mark. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Saturday edition of Dakota Prairie Outdoors. I'm your host, Scott Bachmeyer, here, and for the next hour, we get to talk outdoors and have a little bit of fun, live and local, all across the Dakota Territory. That's right, KGFX Pierce, South Dakota, KOLY in Mobridge, South Dakota, KFire 550 Bismarck, Mandan in North Dakota, also Minot, North Dakota, KCJB, and Voice of the West, KLTC in Dickinson. Good to have you along across those stations and around the world on my YouTube channel, streaming live right now, Dakota Prairie Outdoors Radio. Good to be along with you this morning as we get ready for another Saturday Talking Outdoors. And this time a legislative update, kind of a little twist of things here. So first and foremost, we're going to welcome Oren Lesmeister to the radio program here. Oren is the Senate minority, or excuse me, the House minority leader, right, Oren?
Correct. House minority, yeah.
House minority. And Will Mortenson. So we have the Democratic side, we got the Republican side here. Will Mortenson, welcome, join us here as well.
Good morning, Scott.
All right, so we're going to do this one by one. Oren, give us a little history, who you are, what you do, and so people on the radio side of things know what, if we can call and ask you questions, this is why we're going to call you. Go ahead.
Well, Oren Lesmeister, I'm represented from District 28A. That's Corson, Dewey, Zebach, and now Perkins County in South Dakota. 7th legislative session this year, 4th term. Farmer rancher, lifetime farmer rancher here in the Parade, South Dakota area. That's 10 miles east of Eagle Butte. Family homesteaded here in the homestead days and been doing our thing ever since. Got a small ag business here called Foxer Jag Supply. Just do my thing and try to take care of the state.
All right. And Will, give us a little history of what Will Mortenson does.
You bet. So Will Mortenson's my name. I'm in my 3rd year in the legislature, 2nd term. This year, the 63 Republicans in the House elected me to be their majority leader. And so I lead that Republican caucus when we're negotiating with Oren over on the across the aisle, or we're negotiating with the Senate across the Capitol, or with the governor. For a day job, I'm an attorney. I spend about 30 days a year working cattle in an operation that I'm buying into, but I'm a long ways from being the boss of. It's just our northern border is the Cheyenne River for the home place. So actually, where Oren's homestead is probably only about 35 miles from ours. And that's kind of, there's not a whole lot of people between Hayes and Eagle Butte. And so I've felt really lucky to have Oren as a partner. Even if we're fighting each other, we come from the same country and got a lot of the same values. So it's really been a good working relationship with Oren. Otherwise, I worked for Governor Dugard for 3 years when I was just out of college, when I was 22 or so. And that kind of wetted my whistle for, getting into state policy and how you can make a difference. But also, I just got to tell you, I really looked at Governor Dugard as a model for how you treat people and how you, run a state, run an organization, run a team. And so I went to law school and came back, and there were some openings. So I ran for the legislature, and I've sure enjoyed it. It's a different kind of job and a different kind of world, but I've enjoyed my time there.
So you guys are on the other side of the aisles, right? Opposite sides. Do you get along? I mean, the bipartisan thing in South Dakota legislative, is it better than what we're seeing on the national side? I'll let Will start first.
Oh, it's miles better. I mean, Oren, I don't know. I mean, you could comment on this, but we had 241 bills this year that were in the legislature. I bet about 4 of them had a real partisan tinge, or maybe 10. But Oren and I, we have to beat each other up, and we have to beat each other up. But it's never the level of nastiness that you see at the DC level. I mean, we one thing, Scott, I think that really helps South Dakota's system is that we're only in there for 2 months out of the year.
Yeah.
And so are we legislators during that time? Sure. But I'm already back to Fort Pierre practicing law, representing farmers and ranchers mostly. And you understand that you don't just sell out for the politics thing. You're just there to do your job for 2 months. You look at each bill and you kind of move on. So it's not, I don't think it's nearly as nasty as it is out in DC, but maybe Oren disagrees.
No, I think Will said it, spot on. This is not DC politics. Every morning when Will would walk by my office and we have a brief conversation about what's going on during the day, or, and even the few bills we did disagree on and we had a disagreement within an hour and a half or 2 hours, one of us is back in the other office talking about it. Okay, what went wrong here? What do we need to do to reconcile this and move on? And and that's the thing. You don't see the hardline partisan politics in South Dakota like you do DC. Heck, even within my caucus of only 7 people, we have a split caucus at times on issues. So it's a whole different ball of wax than DC.
So why do you think it's different in South Dakota versus the DC or even other states? I mean, you look at comparable states, I wouldn't even want to imagine what it looks like in the Minnesota side.
I wouldn't either. Why is it different in South Dakota? I think the biggest thing is just our values of being able to sit down and talk to people. When you have a problem, you don't get on social media and exploit it that way. You pick up the phone or you go find them in the Capitol and you sit down and have a conversation, try to find that middle ground and take care of things.
What, you don't want to be a keyboard warrior? What do you mean?
Well,
I thought that's what
well,
everybody's
right.
doing now.
I think that's it.
Well,
I mean,
my fingers
one thing is,
aren't good at typing.
those guys over in Minnesota have, like, go back to this. We're only in there for 9 weeks out of the year, but those guys over in Minnesota have full, they're basically full-time professional legislators. And I saw they gave themselves a big salary bump now. And it's, a person could just live on that. And now what are you? You're not Oren Lesmeister, who's choring in the morning and running Fox Ridge Ag Supply. You're just Oren Lesmeister politician, and you've got a few people on your staff and a public relations team that's egging you on and giving you ideas for how to get in the news, and it kind of turns into professional wrestling politics. And in South Dakota, we don't. I mean, our 105 legislators, there's some saber rattling. I'm not going to say we're perfect and that nobody's grandstanding. That happens a little bit, but way, way lesser degree. And I don't know, Oren, if you agree with this or not, but there's 3 or 4 people who do that and have done that historically, and you wind up not being very effective because everybody else is kind of there to do the job,
I totally agree with that. They get picked out of the crowd pretty quick on some of them issues, and they become kind of less effective until they can kind of turn their ways around. And I don't want to say a team player by no means, because we don't have to go that route, but just be respectful and bring stability back into it again.
And communication is one of the biggest things that you were just discussing too. So, we're getting up close to our first break here, and coming into the next portion of the program, I want to remind everybody, this is a live program. So if you would like to call in and help with here, it's 888-932-5682. It's a toll-free number, and you can ask any questions. I want to stick with some of the outdoor legislation that I've seen on the South Dakota Game Fish and Parks website. And maybe even ask you guys, I know, we're neighbors here, North Dakota, South Dakota neighbors. Maybe some people think the states were split the wrong way. It should have been east-west, and I'll ask you that question because I had that when I moved to Brookings a while back here. That was one of the first things. So we'll be back. Oren Lesmeister and Will Mortenson are my guests here. South Dakota Legislative Update on Dakota Prairie Outdoors today. Feel free to give a call, 888-932-5682. Back after these messages. Pfeiffer's Auction and Realty invite you to their next equipment auction. Go to Pfeiffer's.com and you can check out the Pfeiffer's Sioux Falls Equipment Auction, Tuesday, March 21st. Also coming up is the Peterson Farm Retirement Auction out of New Salem, North Dakota on Tuesday, April 4th. The Howe Farm and Ranch Retirement Auction, otherwise known as J&M Farms out of Hettinger, North Dakota, is coming up your way on Thursday, April 13th. And on April 25th is the Doer Farm Retirement Auction in Kenmare, North Dakota. If you'd like more information, call or click Pfeiffer's.com.
For over 80 years, Dakota Community Bank and Trust has been your locally owned hometown bank, an honor we take great pride in. And our customer satisfaction has always been our most important goal. We've gone along with the communities we serve and will continue to do so with our pledge of modern banking convenience with old-fashioned hometown service. From remote deposit options to online mortgage applications, we are happy to serve you wherever you are. Learn more at DakotaCommunityBank.com. That's DakotaCommunityBank.com.
It's every American's right to bear arms. At Mandan Sporting Goods, we're here to help you support your Second Amendment rights, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whether you're looking for a pistol for personal defense or collector gun, we have the staff to help you. We also have the area's largest inventory of ammo and reloading supplies.
Mandan Sporting Goods, the area's local gun and ammo specialists.
Rockin' 7W has all the panels you need. Freestanding panels, windbreak panels, feeder panels, and the original protester panel. You can custom order sizes to fit your current operation, or you can start from scratch. Rockin' 7W also does trailer repair on any size trailers, mobile welding, and custom cattle hauling. Call Justin at Rockin' 7W at 701-206-1030. That's 701-206-1030. Rockin' 7W, the farmer and rancher's go-to guy. MoPro Guide Service, the best best on Lake Oahe. Brent and his staff will give you the most enjoyable fishing experience, always having the latest in electronics, gear, and the most comfortable Lund boat on the water. Fish with somebody who lives in Mobridge, South Dakota, the heart of Lake Oahe. If you need a place to stay, the Morest Motel has newly updated rooms with free internet, a family-owned and operated business. Go to OaheWalleyes.com. That's OAHE Walleyes.com for the best fishing experience Lake Oahe has to offer. Western Frontier Insurance. Agents that understand you, your needs, and the community. Whether you're looking for coverage on your farm, ranch, home, or auto, you can trust that Western Frontier Insurance will find you a combination of price and coverage that works for you. No fancy jingles, no talking boxes or animals, just good neighbors helping to keep you covered. Western Frontier Insurance. Offices in Hazen, Washburn, and Wilton.
As an independent insurance agency, Dakota Community Insurance partners with leading insurance companies to offer products that are designed around you and your farm insurance needs. As a leader in farm and ranch insurance, we can help you to minimize the risk to you and your operation, including farm equipment, livestock, farm buildings, and crops. Stop into your local branch to visit with our insurance agent or visit DakotaCommunityBank.com. You can rely on us when nature strikes. Dakota Community Insurance.
At Dakota Community Bank and Trust, that's what we do.
MoPro Guide Service, the best on Lake Oahe. Brent and his staff will give you the most enjoyable fishing experience, always having the latest in electronics, gear, and the most comfortable Lund boat on the water. Fish with somebody who lives in Mobridge, South Dakota, the heart of Lake Oahe. If you need a place to stay, the Morest Motel has newly updated rooms with free internet, a family-owned and operated business. Go to OaheWalleyes.com. That's OAHE Walleyes.com for the best fishing experience Lake Oahe has to offer.
It's every American's right to bear arms. At Mandan Sporting Goods, we're here to help you support your Second Amendment rights, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whether you're looking for a pistol for personal defense or collector gun, we have the staff to help you. We also have the area's largest inventory of ammo and reloading supplies.
Mandan Sporting Goods, the area's local gun and ammo specialists.
On that road, but don't you worry, one day I'll settle down. And when that time comes, I hope you're still around. I hope you're still around. I hope you're still around.
Welcome back, everybody. Dakota Prairie Outdoors continues here on a Saturday morning, live and local across the Dakota Territory. And if you'd like to call in, 888-932-5682 if you have any questions for our guests, which are Oren Lesmeister and Will Mortenson here from the South Dakota legislative side of things. But just a heads up, Dakota Rifle Company is presenting a Silence at the Range. It's free suppressed shooting event. They want to get you in suppressors. If you'd never shot with a suppressor, maybe you have a suppressor, you want to try something different, come and join them. Now, they have two different dates, Saturday, May 20th and Sunday, May 21st. Now, Saturday is going to be in Manning, North Dakota at the Slope Area Rifle and Pistol Club. And on Sunday, May 21st at the Southwest Shooting Club in Bowman, North Dakota. So our Hardin County, South Dakota friends can come up this way too. Come out and check out. It's free to come up and have a little fun and shoot suppressed and try some different suppressors around the area. And Dakota Rifle Company is sponsoring that. We want to welcome back Oren Lesmeister, Will Mortenson. Gentlemen, let's talk guns. Oren, where do you stand when it comes to gun control and red flag laws in the South Dakota side of things when those type of events come up?
Well, you know, it's hard to say until you actually see a bill.
Right.
Say you're against everything and anything or for something, you know. I don't like them. I understand where people come from with them and why, but I don't know. It's a tough call because if you give an inch, do they take a mile? You know, it gets really tough. I'm a gun owner. You know that. I part of the Cheyenne River Predator Hunters. We got YouTube show coyote culture, you know, hunting coyotes all the time and stuff. The red flag laws, like I said, I understand where people are coming from with them. I get it. but it just scares me to death if we give up any of it. How far are they going to take it?
Exactly. Will, how about you?
Oh yeah, the same. One thing when I think about laws that restrict gun rights, we're not just talking about restricting something people want to do. We're talking about restricting something people have a constitutional right to, and I think that's something that deserves a lot more protection. And so those efforts to restrict gun ownership, even in circumstances like are contemplated by some of those red flag laws, we've looked really tough on those in the legislature and haven't passed any of them. I don't know that any of them have even really gotten out of committees. And so, you know, when I look at that issue, I got to say the area that scares me with guns is suicide. I mean, there's a lot more people that die by suicide using a gun than by shooting each other. And so when I come in and people get hysterical over things like long rifles and how big chambers are, and I just tell them, you know, you're barking up the wrong tree, guys. We are not regulating any of that. And I just don't, you know, I mean, I haven't seen anybody come to me with something that seems like it's in keeping with the Constitution and would also move the needle on making us really any safer a society. And so I think I got an A+ or an A from the NRA. I'm not sure I've ever voted against a gun bill.
Yeah. So, you know, you brought up a good point. You know, you look at suicide, and you're right. I mean, there's far more deaths by firearm by suicide than, you know, person versus person. But wouldn't that become like more of a mental health type of situation instead of a gun law?
Well, and that's kind of my point is, at that point, you're in somebody's home. You're in, you know, I mean, I don't think there's a way to constitutionally regulate to maybe move the needle on that at all. Is kind of my point. And so, and it is something. I'm the chairman of Capital Area Counseling Services, which is the largest addiction treatment and mental health provider in Central South Dakota, and that's an area I'm passionate about. I mean, I just think we're finally getting in rural communities where it's something that it's okay to talk about. It's something to kind of reach out and say, you know, hey brother, I'm struggling here a little bit. Can you come give me a hand? And that's a path we got to keep going down and keep looking after each other. I mean, there just aren't very many of us out here, and a lot of us come from a lot more remote areas, and that means you're by yourself a lot more, and that means maybe you're on the internet more than you should be. And I think that drives, you know, I mean, I don't think that's good for mental health. It just isn't. I think it in some ways drives people a little crazy, and you got to be willing to look out for each other, ask for help when you need it. But that's really the place I think our energy should be focused.
You know, it's funny you say that. You know, I do quite a bit of this here by myself. My wife works in town, and I'm out at the ranch all by myself. And I rely, man. It's nice to give somebody a call and just shoot the bull a little bit during the day. And you know, during calving season, I know Oren, you're a fall calver. You luck out here on this here side, but us spring calvers, you know, I mean, it's tough right now. Last spring, we had those big April storms, and I made a point to call about a handful of people just to check in and say, hey, how's it going? But that's not what rural people do very often. We don't ask for help, do we, Oren?
No. And Will brought up a really good point there. And you also just reaching out and talking to people. Before we have red flag laws per se in different things, I think we need to put a lot more effort into mental health in the ag industry as a whole. With, you know, even with the pricing, you know, we're receiving right now for some of our goods and products, it's not alleviating the debt load that people are carrying and different things. And there's, as we all know, there's nothing worse than weighs on a farmer rancher's mind than how are you going to pay the bills in the fall? You know, we get one paycheck a year basically, and if that goes sideways, insurance helps, but it doesn't pick up the whole ticket. So there's nothing worse than laying awake at night wondering how the heck you're going to make the bank and mortgage payment.
Yeah, when it comes, but now you're running a slippery slope when you say mental health and the farming and ranching side of things, because now you see some people saying, well, if we have a law that we feel that somebody's not quite mentally stable, we can come into their home and confiscate their firearms until they go through certain screenings. We don't want that either. I mean, some of us just have bad days once in a while, you know?
Correct. Well, and that's what scares me to death about the red flag laws is how far is the overreach? How far do they go? And like you said, the guy's having a bad day and maybe had a few too many cocktails that afternoon or whatever, or evening, and spouts off about something and absolutely probably doesn't even remember it the next morning, but somewhere along the way, somebody took the initiative to turn him in per se. And how far does it go? And that's what scares me.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you see any difference between East? So when I moved to Brookings and spent a little time over in Brookings, South Dakota, I didn't know there was such a thing of East River versus West River until one of the guys that I worked with over there looked at me and says, "Oh, you're a West River guy." And it sounded like that was a bad thing. Do you see that in the politics in the state of South Dakota? I know North Dakota does. Does South Dakota see it East versus West quite a bit? Oren, go ahead and you started.
Well, there is some issues here and there, just because mostly topography issues. A lot more farming and larger operations East River versus West River. A lot more ranching, open country. So when we propose laws that might work really good out here or work really good over there, it doesn't always work across the river that way. It has an adverse effect sometimes. So, that's how we see the East-West. There's a lot of joking that goes on. I mean, even Governor Dugard at one time proposed, a fake proposal, but a bill to repeal the East and West Dakotas, So there's a lot of funds laid out with it and stuff too. But that's really the biggest issue that probably comes into play is just the amount of people East River versus West, and then topography, how agriculture works, and even municipalities.
Yeah.
Most of our major municipalities are down that I-29 corridor over there.
Mm-hmm.
Out here, kind of like Will said, there's hardly anybody between his place and their ranch down here south of me and ours here. So
and Will, I mean, there's you got Watertown, Brookings, even Madison's growing a little bit. You got that Sioux Falls area, Mitchell, Chamberlain. Most of the population is East River.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know if anybody else saw that thing floating around the internet last week where they drew a line straight south from the most west point in Minnesota, which is clear up at the north, on the Canada border, and it actually is further west than I-29. And they said that 40% of South Dakotans live east of the westernmost point of Minnesota, which is really a confusing thing to say. But the point is, 40% of them, 40% of them live basically from Madison over. Yeah. And that's very real. But, I would say I think there's a lot of things that come before us in the way that South Dakota's set up.
Okay. Oh, I hate to cut you up, but we're up against a break, and we'll continue this on the second half. We'll have our long break coming up right after these messages. Pfeiffer's Auction and Realty invites you to their next equipment auction. Go to Pfeiffer's.com and you can check out the Pfeiffer's Sioux Falls Equipment Auction, Tuesday, March 21st. Also coming up is the Peterson Farm Retirement Auction out of New Salem, North Dakota on Tuesday, April 4th. The Howe Farm and Ranch Retirement Auction, otherwise known as J&M Farms out of Hettinger, North Dakota, is coming up your way on Thursday, April 13th. And on April 25th is the Doer Farm Retirement Auction in Kenmare, North Dakota. If you'd like more information, call or click Pfeiffer's.com.
For over 80 years, Dakota Community Bank and Trust has been your locally owned hometown bank, an honor we take great pride in. And our customer satisfaction has always been our most important goal. We've gone along with the communities we serve and will continue to do so with our pledge of modern banking convenience with old-fashioned hometown service. From remote deposit options to online mortgage applications, we are happy to serve you wherever you are. Learn more at dakotacommunitybank.com. That's dakotacommunitybank.com.
It's every American's right to bear arms. At Mandan Sporting Goods, we're here to help you support your Second Amendment rights, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whether you're looking for a pistol for personal defense or collector gun, we have the staff to help you. We also have the area's largest inventory of ammo and reloading supplies.
Mandan Sporting Goods, the area's local gun and ammo specialists.
Rockin' 7W has all the panels you need. Freestanding panels, windbreak panels, feeder panels, and the original protester panel. You can custom order sizes to fit your current operation, or you can start from scratch. Rockin' 7W also does trailer repair on any size trailers, mobile welding, and custom cattle hauling. Call Justin at Rockin' 7W at 701-206-1030. That's 701-206-1030. Rockin' 7W, the farmer and rancher's go-to guy. MoPro Guide Service, the best on Lake Oahe. Brent and his staff will give you the most enjoyable fishing experience, always having the latest in electronics, gear, and the most comfortable Lund boat on the water. Fish with somebody who lives in Mobridge, South Dakota, the heart of Lake Oahe. If you need a place to stay, the Motrest Motel has newly updated rooms with free internet, a family-owned and operated business. Go to OaheWalleyes.com. That's OAHE Walleyes.com for the best fishing experience Lake Oahe has to offer. Western Frontier Insurance. Agents that understand you, your needs, and the community. Whether you're looking for coverage on your farm, ranch, home, or auto, you can trust that Western Frontier Insurance will find you a combination of price and coverage that works for you. No fancy jingles, no talking boxes or animals, just good neighbors helping to keep you covered. Western Frontier Insurance. Offices in Hazen, Washburn, and Wilton.
As an independent insurance agency, Dakota Community Insurance partners with leading insurance companies to offer products that are designed around you and your farm insurance needs. As a leader in farm and ranch insurance, we can help you to minimize the risk to you and your operation, including farm equipment, livestock, farm buildings, and crops. Stop into your local branch to visit with our insurance agent or visit DakotaCommunityBank.com. You can rely on us when nature strikes. Dakota Community Insurance.
At Dakota Community Bank and Trust, that's what we do.
MoPro Guide Service, the best on Lake Oahe. Brent and his staff will give you the most enjoyable fishing experience, always having the latest in electronics, gear, and the most comfortable Lund boat on the water. Fish with somebody who lives in Mobridge, South Dakota, the heart of Lake Oahe. If you need a place to stay, the Motrest Motel has newly updated rooms with free internet, a family-owned and operated business. Go to OaheWalleyes.com. That's OAHE Walleyes.com for the best fishing experience Lake Oahe has to offer.
It's every American's right to bear arms. At Mandan Sporting Goods, we're here to help you support your Second Amendment rights, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whether you're looking for a pistol for personal defense or collector gun, we have the staff to help you. We also have the area's largest inventory of ammo and reloading supplies.
Mandan Sporting Goods, the area's local gun and ammo specialists.
On that road, but don't you worry, one day I'll settle down. And when that time comes, I hope you're still around. I hope you're still around. I hope you're still around.
Welcome back, everybody. It is live and local Dakota Prairie Outdoors Saturday edition continuing here. I'm Scott Bachmeyer, your host here, and glad to be around here. 2 decades strong on Dakota Prairie Outdoors. Our guests today are Oren Lesmeister and Will Mortenson. And Will, I know I cut you off here because I wasn't watching my time on the clock here talking about the population, but are you? I'll let you continue your thought that you had here with a lot of the people living basically Madison to the east.
Well, that'll only become more true, I would assume, in the decades to come. But I think there's a really big cultural difference based on that river, the Missouri River, not just in South Dakota, but more generally. I mean, you look at things like these private colleges. I mean, you go to the river, and basically there aren't any west of the river. I mean, Minnesota's loaded with these. Eastern South Dakota's got a lot of them. And then you get west of the river, and West River doesn't have any, and then Wyoming and Montana don't have hardly any. I mean, there's a lot of things, it seems to me, that stop at that river, and there's a lot of things that are culturally similar to more like Minnesota and Wisconsin that you'd find in Watertown, where my wife's people are from. And you know, the counties are a lot smaller. There's a lot of school districts that are small, where out in the country that Oren and I come from, it's more about sparsity. Right. I mean, the schools are small, but that's just because there aren't very many people and they're a long ways apart from each other. So I think there's some really big cultural differences that you see in the legislature and how people act and vote, but also that are kind of inherent and have been inborn in these communities for decades, maybe centuries.
Let's go to the text message here. If people have questions or comments, you can text me at 701-425-6651. And text comes in, it says, and this is going to be part of what I wanted to talk about too here. It says, I really appreciate the fact that South Dakota land is considered posted. But as a North Dakota resident who's owned land in South Dakota for over 25 years and paying taxes on that land, to hunt on my South Dakota ranch, I have to apply for a non-resident tag. Is there anything that you guys want to, I mean, that's a lot of it from the North and South Dakota border. I live close to, I got friends that have land on both sides, and it is an issue. I mean, you have to choose one or the other. Is there any type of reciprocity a guy can do between the South Dakota Game Fish Parks, North Dakota Game and Fish that would allow you to apply for a tag if you have land on both sides? Has that ever been brought up to you guys? Oren, I'll let you start.
Well, sitting the last 6 years in Ag Committee, I had not heard that proposal at all, or even the comment come up. We do, and I got to remember back now. We have passed some even absentee landowner tags that you can apply for here in South Dakota, and that individual needs to look into that. But no, as far as jumping the border back and forth and applying for one tag and owning land on both sides, I've never had that come up in front of me at all. No.
How about Will? Would you look at that? And I mean, if I owned, I don't know, a couple thousand acres on the North Dakota side and I was a resident, that's where my house was, and I get a gratis tag up there, and I own 15,000 acres in South Dakota, why couldn't I get a landowner tag there as well?
And I get the argument that you're pumping thousands of dollars into the tax base. The problem is, North and South Dakota, I think, probably have a little better of a sister relationship than a lot of other states for 100 different reasons. It'd be a little bit tough on a policy side to say, why are we doing this for people who have land on both sides on our northern border? I mean, I've got a lot of clients who live down in the Valentine area who have land on both sides of the Nebraska border too.
Right.
And I'm sure that if you asked an ag attorney over in Brookings, that they've got clients the Minnesota border too. And so unless you're going to do full-blown border reciprocity, I think that'd be pretty tough.
It would be. Now let's talk about the, fact South Dakota land is considered posted. North Dakota attempted to do this a couple years ago, and it failed miserably because a lot of the biggest argument was it's going to hurt hunting. There's not going to be anybody hunting anymore if everything is assumed posted. Is it hurt the hunting in South Dakota?
No.
Exactly.
We hear some of them arguments also down here yet, even just proposed changes within our laws, hunting regulations. We're blessed, really, really blessed this time to have a great Secretary of Game, Fish, and Parks, and his staff. They're very, they go out and they talk to landowners. They're going to town meetings. They're going to counties. They're visiting with people now and sitting down and making sure things are right. Anytime the sportsmen's groups come forward, we sit down and listen to them. We have that conversation. But a lot of times, though, the sky is not going to fall. Everything's not going to come to pieces. And that goes back again to our Game, Fish, and Park staff, just being able to have them hard conversations on both sides of the fence, being stuck in the middle. You got to think about that.
Yeah.
Them guys are stuck in the middle, and, they're talking to landowners and they're talking to sportsmen's groups, and they're getting it from both sides, and they got to try to come to that compromise in the middle and make things work for everybody. But as far as posting land here, no, it hasn't hurt hunting any. I have hunters that come in here on my property and invite them in at times. Other areas I know have lodges and different things, but as far as general hunting and as far as walk-in areas, there's still walk-in areas and everything. So no, it hasn't hurt it. None here.
So Will, what's your take on this?
No, I don't think so either. But we got to acknowledge the fact that there's fewer 14-year-olds picking up a gun and going hunting than there was 20, 30 years ago. And what do we do about that? And I don't think this posting issue is weighing on that. I think that we need to focus on some solutions that are good for the environment, good for the hunters, sportsmen, and good for the landowners. I mean, you look at what the Nome administration, USDA did, getting that Big Sioux watershed CREP program up and running. And these are the types of efforts that we need to look at, things that don't pit sportsmen and landowners against each other, because in a lot of cases, they have the exact same goals.
Yeah.
And so it's our job as policymakers to find areas where these two groups who shouldn't always be at loggerheads can agree and move the ball together. And I think CREP and getting more private land held privately for landowners who want to sign up for a private lease to do walk-in or do CREP. I mean, those are the types of efforts I think where we should be directing our attention and our enthusiasm, because again, they get at what everybody wants, which is we're not forcing anything down landowners' throats. We're giving more opportunities for sportsmen. And with that CREP thing, we're healing our land and our rivers. And so I think we need to focus a little bit more on what we can agree on than always focus on what we don't.
Yeah. So, so what you're saying is, if a landowner wants to maybe charge a little access fee, you guys are supporting of that, or is that kind of frowned upon?
Well, I think so. I mean, if you want to sign up to, if you've got a little area and you want to sign up and do a lease, and GF&P does this, where basically GF&P comes in and leases hunting rights during a certain season or at any point for people to walk in, not drive in.
Right.
I say, why not? You own the land. If you want to lease it or you don't want to lease it, that should be up to you.
Yeah. South Dakota calls it walk-in land, and North Dakota calls it plots, private land open to sportsmen. Same program. The only thing is differently, I noticed in South Dakota, is what I like is you guys have like a little parking area for that hunting area. And that's one thing I wish we'd do on the North Dakota side, because my whole neighbor's ranch is into the walk-in program or plots program, and people just park on the main road, or they park on our driveway road. And of course, in the fall time, hauling cattle, moving things, hauling hay, it's kind of dangerous every once in a while. So that's one thing I wish we could do, is designated parking areas so people would know this is where you stop and you park to get off the road. But let's move into everything's assumed posted. I know Montana does it. Do you think that hunting is becoming not a rich person's sport, but a more well-off person's sport of going out and doing this? Will, go ahead and you start.
No, I don't think so. And
Okay.
now, look, I'm 34 years old, but I just look around at my buddies and me, and this is, I mean, it certainly the folks who are interested in hunting and the folks who are not, that line is not drawn based on the income level of my buddies. And so maybe I'm just basing this on my own personal experience, but I think it's a lot more, I don't know how to say this delicately, Scott, but there's just a lot, no, but I think it's a lot more drawn on, I don't know how to put this. I went to law school out in Virginia, and I think it used to be that if you were a guy, you were interested in hunting and motorcycles and, getting out and mixing it up and whatever. And I think you're just losing a lot of that in some portion of the population. I think it has a lot more to do with people's interest and frankly, people becoming a little bit softer, and then they don't want to hunt as much. I guess I would draw it on that line.
That's
more
a
than
good
more
way.
than others.
Yeah. Oren, soft is a great word for that. Oren, how do we get younger people, if you're missing the 14-year-olds out there hunting, what do you do to get them interested? Isn't that more of a parenting thing?
Well, parenting, grandparenting, just the state in general. The game fishing parks has their 3 R's, they call it, that they're trying to, recruit, retain, and recreation, I think, is the other R. But the biggest thing is going back to your comment about, are we, pricing ourselves out of hunting?
Yeah.
You price yourself out of hunting if you choose to. If you want to shoot, your dad's old 30-30, go shoot it. You don't have to have the 6 Creedmoors or the 22 Creedmoor or the fanciest whatever custom made guns and different things. Put on the coveralls and go hunt. I mean, it still works. I do it quite often here. So you can price yourself out of hunting, or you can just go have fun. And that's where I think where some of it comes in. People see the commercialization and different things of it, and they think they have to have all this equipment and fancy gear and everything else. And at the end of the day, they don't. Just get outside and have fun.
So I just got a text. It says possibly more instructors for hunter safety education. And I know that we're short in my area. We're very rural in the Southwest area here, and much like you guys, but Uh, I don't know. In South Dakota, do you guys pay your hunter safety instructors?
I don't know.
It just, I don't think we pay them all. There's some that are paid, yes.
Okay.
But you take the volunteers at the 4-H and different levels, no.
Okay. Why wouldn't that be a good idea to have paid people to go out and do these classes a few times out of the year, and especially in areas that they limit the class size. So I'll take my local area, for instance. They have one class a year. They limit it to like 15, 20 kids, and that's it. Then if you miss out and you didn't get signed up, there might be 60 kids out there that are trying to find another place to go and do this. Online, is that an option except for the practicals? What do you guys think here? I'll start with Will.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's a decent idea. And frankly, I'd go maybe a step further. I've had some conversations with people who used to be on the Game Fish and Parks Commission in South Dakota about whether we could, even in schools, start doing some instruction on shooting sports. I mean, I think that, if people don't have dad or grandpa to go out, teach them how to safely handle a gun, teach them that guns can be part of recreation, and kind of familiarize and take this is a dangerous weapon stigma off of some of these firearms. I think that's all to the good. And that's kind of how we can maybe more affirmatively try to promote this hunting heritage we've had here for a long time. It's been frankly part of our state identity. And so I think instructors, more of them and better, and recruit there as well as the kids. But I think there's a place in our schools, and I'm an attorney, and so I get it. Liability, and how are we going to get an insurance policy to cover this? I just think we have shooting sport teams. We have people who are teaching these kids outside of that context, and I think we should try to find a way to make it work if a school district wants to. So my take is
it's funny you say this. I'm getting just bombarded with messages and texts here saying, teach it in the schools, have classes in the high schools once a year. Another one says the game warden should teach it, go into the school system. And when I was growing up, a little country school out in the middle of nowhere, right? They closed it up, and I think I don't know how many grades, but we all took it. It was 2 days. The sheriff came in, and that was part of what we had to do. And can we bring it back into the school? Because it's not always about how to shoot a gun. It's about what if you find one and safely you need to safely take it to your school teacher, or maybe it's identifying wild game. Oren, is this something a guy could push into the schools, or is that going to be having a lot of pushback from different organizations?
Oh, I think you'd have tremendous pushback.
Yeah.
Just the reality of the world we live in today now, compared to when even I grew up, when we had guns in the back window of the pickup at school.
Yeah.
It's just a common thing. And go back to some of the comments before. Yeah, the BB gun stuff, the different things. I'm the director of the High School Rodeo Association Shooting Sports Program here in South Dakota.
Oh, sure.
And as far as getting our kids out, what I'm seeing is the last 2 years, I've almost sent our whole team as young girls sitting on our trap and light rifle team.
Yeah.
So that's, it's that trend is that ebb and flow is starting to happen. That trend towards the young girls getting more involved in shooting is happening. I think the young men and women of the world will come back around. I think it's a cycle. I'm hoping, and I think we'll see more and more youth involved with shooting sports and things. Maybe not directly hunting, but if they're light rifle and they're trap shooting and different things, that's all part of it too.
All right, so we have about 3.5, 4 minutes on the radio side, and I'm going to ask this question because I'm hoping it goes onto the YouTube side where we can get a little bit more animated. One guy messaged in, he says, at least have firearms safety classes for students. And it made me think, guys. So I've been hearing this, and I don't know if it's in North or South Dakota schools. I know for a fact that this whole thing of being a furry and thinking that you're a cat has been in some schools. Okay. And are you guys familiar with that term, furry?
Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. Okay. So I've been hearing this on the national side of news. And, I switch around a lot of different radio stations just to hear different things, and different, whether it's Fox or CNN or whatever, Newsmax. They're trying to implement this transgender education into schools. But we can't teach firearms safety in schools because it's like, whoa, firearm safety. Where does the mental health issue become what we're teaching in the school systems? And I know this is kind of off the outdoor side of things here, but it's been bugging me. Can we do something on a state level to where we don't have this kind of worrisome? I mean, if I had kids going to school and they had to deal with that, I'd be homeschooling in a second here. Oren, what do you say?
Well, as far as the overall view of that, yeah, it's back to the culture we're living in today. That's where most people are leaning towards, whether it's the transgender stuff and getting away from firearms. That's the world we live in today, and that's what pushes and drives it. As far as getting it into a school system for firearm safety, again, I think, boy, that'd be. I'd love to see it. That's where I took it. I mean, I can remember being in the gym shooting BB guns and stuff.
That's
that was back in the early 70s.
So Eric just messaged. He said, "I used to shoot BB guns in Fort Pierce school lunchroom on Sundays for competitions."
Exactly. You see, yeah, that's exactly it. Hayes Hall, the Hayes BB gun shooters down there. They won a lot of national stuff. And so I'd love to see it back. I just don't think it's going to happen.
So how come what we think is normal? There's a man, there's a woman, and we're being called mentally unstable now because they want to teach other things in school. Will, how come I thought we were normal people. We're not normal anymore.
No, we are the normal people. One thing about it, there's a lot of these news stories that come out of somebody in New Jersey and some weird school administrator there or something. And I just got to tell you, I meet with a lot of these school people, and I kind of read them the riot act on what you just kind of brought up, right? Are you guys? And I ask them, "Is this going on?" And they are not lying to me. And it's not, right? In South Dakota schools, we are still grounded in common sense. We are still the world that you and me see to a very large extent. Now, is that true 100% of the time in Sioux Falls? And do they have something to go stray there occasionally? I'd say yeah, but I've got kids who are 5 and 2, and I'm excited to send them to Pierce schools. It's a good school district. And again, I know the people on the school board, and these are good conservative people. They're good, they're good, normal people. The superintendent, same way, and all the way down. And so I'd just say that, thank God, South Dakota has maintained its sanity, even if some other portions of the country haven't.
Yeah. Well, we got 30 seconds left. Oren, go ahead and give us a little bit of an outro here about we're going to continue on YouTube, by the way, folks. If you want to go to my YouTube channel, we'll continue there. But Will, Oren, thank you so much for being on the program, taking time out of a Saturday here, especially. I know you had to get up early and go feed there, Oren. So, gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Appreciate it, Scott.
You bet. We'll be back. We're going to continue on YouTube after this here. Radio stations, thank you for having me and supporting me over 2 decades now. Eat some meat, drink some milk. Have a good weekend. All right, gentlemen, the after program where we can go a little bit more risque since we're not on local radio.
Well, I thought we were talking about furries. We're going to get more.
We're going to get into that. And I don't know why it pisses me off so much, but I auctioned my first thing last year. I didn't know about this. I was the auctioneer for the bull sale up by Rugby, North Dakota. And I'm sitting with their family, and their family, it's a large family. They Minot, I think some will go to Minot school, high school or whatever. And these kids, they're high school kids talking about furry. And I'm like, what are you guys talking about? And they explained what was going on in that school in Minot. So I started asking around, and there's some, even in small towns like Bowman, over in Baker, Montana, Harding County, South Dakota, I don't think has any, because most of those kids would just beat the pile out of anybody anyway. But you look at some of these, I mean, it's happening, and I think I feel it comes down to a lot of the parenting issues going, some of these parents are a little bit too lax maybe on discipline. And I don't know if I'm right or wrong on this, but I know Bismarck school systems, when I talked to John Arman from Ultimate Outdoors, he's a school teacher, and he says that the Bismarck school systems years ago, before this was even an issue, looked ahead and said, wow, this might become an issue. So they put a no costume rule in effect in the Bismarck school systems years ago. So they can't do that. So nobody can actually dress up and act like a cat, Is this something, it's got to be happening across the state of South Dakota. I mean, if it's happening in Bowman, North Dakota, you know darn well it's happening someplace else.
Yeah, one thing
Well,
about
for
it
me,
is that, go ahead.
go ahead, Will. Go.
Well, I was just going to say, and I spend a lot of time thinking about this because frankly, it's kind of a terrifying thing to be raising two little kids in 2023. You're right. I mean, it just scares the hell out of me. And so I look at this and I think about the cause and effect. And I think a lot of it is, Scott, when you were a kid, or when you were, and then when I was, there were a lot of kids who had a hard time with this, you know, with a lot of different things, right?
Yeah,
it's an anxious thing to be a teenager, and you're nervous, and you know, and now what we have is some theory on the internet of, hey, maybe this is what's causing this for you, or maybe if you just did this, then it would alleviate that. And a lot of these things are getting suggested to kids when they're awfully vulnerable, and then they take off and run with them, and it's not helping them, and you got parents who are just trying to help their kids through a tough spot, and they see their kids struggling, and they say, hey, maybe this will help them, and they'll be happier, and that's all you want for your kids. And so you're kind of willing to try things that, when you look at it from 10,000 feet, they don't make any sense at all, right? I mean, so it's a tough thing. But one thing in South Dakota is that we're real protective of that local school board, and your neighbors are the ones that run that school. We don't want the politicians in Pierre running the school.
True.
And so that's a really tough thing, Scott, because you say, hey, Oren, shouldn't you and Will go ban kids dressing up? And we just say, God darn it, where do you draw the line on a guy who dresses Western anyway, and now is trying to dress up like a cowboy even though he's not? And when is that? That's a school board decision.
It is, but do you see the school boards being able to have the power here? I mean, I'm some school boards probably do. I get that, but it seems like some boards that you hear of in more urban towns in the Dakota Territory are changing their ways, I guess you could say. Not Oren, what do you think?
Well, and they are. I totally agree with that. But here's the thing: we got to make dang sure these are open meetings. Make dang sure the public is there, and I'm not talking about one or two parents being there to gripe about things every month or anything like that. You know, if there's real concerns within the community, people need to show up in mass and talk to their school board members and make sure they're being heard. Because that, you know, even though they're school board members, that's them parents' school district, and them elected officials on that board were put there by them. So, you know, kind of like Will and I being in the legislature, we have our constituents to come home and look in the face and explain our actions. And that should happen there also. The other thing I'll say is what Will brought up before is in this day and age, parenting is tough. And I've got grandkids. I got 6 grandkids now that I'm the same way. I'm scared to death what they're going to grow up in. And parenting is tough in this world. But take away the social media at one point, you know, limit it somehow, because I think a lot of this does start with social media. I was in a restaurant here last week. I watched a family sit there. The kids, there's 4 kids and I presume husband and wife sitting there with them. The kids never said a word. One was on an iPad, 2 were on their phones, and one had a tablet of some sort, another iPad per se. And the parents had a short conversation between them, but even the mom at one point was on her phone for probably 25 minutes.
Yeah.
And I think that's where us as a society, we're failing right there. I think that, you know, there's no conversation.
Amen.
Nobody sits down at Sunday supper anymore or dinner or anything and has a conversation with their kids. They just soon give them a TV dinner or McDonald's and go play on your phone. You know, don't annoy me tonight. And that's where we're failing.
And that's one thing that I think a lot of, I'm not just politicians, but anybody serving, in the legislature, have that communication, and I think communication is, but you also have to look at how the internet has improved. I sit on our broadband board. So we're trying to work on our last fiber project, and we're getting a lot of pushback from landowners because they're like, we don't need internet. Right. And I think the so-called pandemic, which I hate using that word, I really do, showed how important telemedicine was and communication. Right now I can text people, I can call them, I can get in touch with them probably 7-8 different ways. and they don't always work out here in the Badlands. But if I get on top of a hill or a plateau or something, there's a good chance I can do that and find help or get help. But we're not communicating anymore. We have the ability to communicate with them, but we're not doing it as well as jumping in the vehicle and driving over to your neighbors with a 6-pack of beer and sitting down and throwing a game of horseshoes. We're not. I don't know which way. Without the internet, I wouldn't be able to do my show here either. But a couple comments about this furry thing before we move on. Jim says you can't teach a dog or cat to read and write, so they shouldn't be in the school in the first place. My buddy I graduated high school with here, he says his son, Cash, said that there's a girl in his school. The teachers have to call her by her furry name, which is Space Kitten, or else she won't answer them back. She won't even communicate with them unless they use that name. Now, where does it become a parenting thing? Where does it become a school board saying, you know what, this isn't mentally right? My teachers, as a school board or anything, why can't they look and say, look, teachers, parents, you can't send your kids like this because, one, this is a school. This isn't a daycare or a pet care or nothing like that. This is an actual learning institution. Why can't they do that?
Excellent question.
They can. I mean,
why did they choose not to? Are they scared they're going to hurt somebody's feelings?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
What?
And I know, but you just got to be willing to say, this is common sense. We're not going to change every rule for every single circumstance. We're just going to have the normal rules and we're just going to apply them. And does that suit everybody? No. But you don't you can't have a set of rules that change based on every single person's preference. You just can't. You just got to have one set of rules, and you got to be willing to say, nope, darn it, this is enough. And let's just, we can't protect everybody's feelings all the time.
No.
Right. And then carve outs, as they're termed a lot of times, when you got a set of rules, don't start doing carve outs and making a new rule exception for this person and then exception for them. And that's where teachers are going to fail even in the system, because they're jumping through more hoops. And I taught for 9 years here in Igga Butte at the ag department. And there was times then, and I'm talking late 80s, early 90s. And I was mind boggled at times what we had to go through as far as reporting and keeping track of things and IEPs and different things. At that point, I couldn't imagine a teacher today having to go through everything they have to, and plus abide by a whole different set of rules for certain individuals. That'd be horrible.
Yeah. I got a text message for you guys. It says, are you sure these two guys are politicians? Way too much common sense and wisdom. So
welcome to South Dakota.
So you did get the text message from my wife.
Oh, that was
good.
Okay. Well, I hope it's not your wife, because she has a 701 number and she's has a different number then. So what? How do you guys? I mean, over the COVID thing, Kristi Noem was in the news a lot. What's your guys' opinion on? I mean, is she doing all right for South Dakota? Because a lot of people are looking in, going, "Hey, we wish she was our governor, right?" She doing good? What's your guys' take? Oren, give us the Democratic side.
You know what? Yeah, I cannot argue with a lot of stuff Governor Noem does. I agree with probably 95% of it. Would we agree on everything? No, and we shouldn't. That's why we have different levels of government. So make sure the checks and balances are in place. Keeping the state open and everything, spot on.
Yeah.
I live here within the boundaries of the CRST reservation. We had checkpoints up and different things here that, we had to have an ID card or a permit from the tribe to come and go from the reservation here.
Yeah.
That was different. I mean, that was really enlightening to a lot of people. I think she's done a good job overall. Do I agree with everything? Heck no. And Will and I will disagree about stuff too.
Right.
That's just human nature. But no, I think she's done a good job overall.
Yeah. Will, your take?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think she's done a nice job. She's a cowgirl, man. And she's willing to be spicy and mix it up. in in the press and on the internet in ways that almost everybody in the legislature is not. And so that leads to some, when you're negotiating with it, like I have to do on behalf of my caucus, it leads to, you got to be ready for that, right? You got to know how she operates overall. I don't hold that against her. I mean, she's, I think, doing a good job. I think she's got values that are right in the middle of South Dakota, and she pushes hard on some of these things. And I'm pretty new to this job, and so I'm hopeful that we can lock arms a little more than we did this year. I mean, we kind of wound up fighting a little bit. Now, not bad, right? You're not going to ever find anything where I'm saying anything bad about her, but she's a different kind of governor than we've really had in this state, in that she flexes that media thing and the social media thing in ways that we just didn't see in other cases. But I think on the policy and on where her values are, boy, I think she's good, and I think she reflects us.
Yeah. Message comes in. It says, if everybody agrees 100% of the time, something's wrong. And Scott Bulgy down in there, he says, I have ran into a few people down here, feel she is fake because of all the press. What's your take? Okay. They feel she's fake because of all the press that she does. And she does a lot of national interviews as well. What's your guys' take? Is that a fake thing, or is she real all the time?
No, I think that's her, man. I think she's firing from the hip a little bit. And whenever you're doing that national media thing and the social media thing, Scott, I got to tell you, that's just a high wire act. I mean, you go out and you want to make bold statements that reflect what you think and your values. And then sometimes somebody says, well, then how does this pigeonhole into this other thing you were really adamant about? And if you're looking to try to make a politician look like a hypocrite, you can do it with every single one of them.
Exactly.
And so, but I don't think she's faking it. I think it's the real deal.
Yeah. Oren?
No, and I think she takes a bad rap because she is on national news a lot. And like Will said before, we haven't had a governor that was that way, until now. And she travels out of state a lot, and she catches a lot of slack from that.
Yeah.
I have people always, ask me, well, is the governor going to come home? That's a question for her. But I think she catches a lot of slack that way. But as far as being fake, I'll tell you what, a couple of weeks ago, I had a 45-minute one-on-one conversation with her one evening after session and about an issue. And she'll tell you straight up, when you leave her office, you know exactly where she stands. There's, they put politics aside or whatever else, and you can have the same conversation with her. You can tell her, this is just how you feel, and that's, and it's fine. So yeah, I don't think she's fake. I think she's pretty well straight up.
Presidential run, you think? Is that what she's doing the national stuff for?
I'll let Will take that one. He's in her party.
I'm not brave enough to answer that one. Who the hell knows what my answer?
I was just curious because that's what everybody's thinking. There's no doubt about it there. Scott says, I agree with you guys. Also, Gene says, national media focused more on a fly on VP Pence than the issues being debated. Sums up the national media. Yeah, isn't that the truth?
Mm-hmm.
So, well, I'll let you guys go. I got to get out and feed here too before it gets too soft and but I'll tell you, both of you guys, it's refreshing coming from somebody that I interview a lot of different people, and this is the first time I've seen a Democrat and Republican. It gives me new hope, I guess, for the way the politics could possibly be again, and work together like that. So both of you guys keep up the good work. I appreciate it, and I might be calling upon you guys somewhere down the road, do another radio program.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Hold on.
Yep.
Got one more question. Scott says, okay, what's their take on the Gregory County pump storage by me? And most schools down here have rejected what they're telling us.
I'll just be straight up. I hate it. I think it's bogus because, and this is something Will and I agree on too. When you start talking eminent domain on private landowners stuff, and he brought bills this year to this issue. My gander gets up pretty darn quick. So I'll just tell you, I hate
what's
it.
the Gregory County pump storage? Give me a little update on this.
So they originally created a reservoir, or were going to create a reservoir in Gregory that would be used for irrigation. That was in like the 80s or the 70s or something.
70s, yeah.
Now, one of these utility companies, a private utility company, wants to come in and turn this, create the reservoir and flood a bunch of land, so that they can run the water through turbines during the day to generate power, and then pump the water back uphill at night when electrical rates are lesser, and then run the water back through as a means of green energy creation.
Oh, good grief.
But what's got everybody's dander up is that they want to flood this out and create this reservoir, and of course take the land through eminent domain, like happened to our ranch on the Cheyenne River when they created the Oahe Dam, however long ago. So, when I hear about it, I get why people are pissed. I don't like these goofy Green New Deal things overall. But I also say, was my family pissed, and is that a scar that kind of lives in our family heritage? Yeah, a little bit. But, are we mad that they built the Oahe Dam in the 60s? No, right? I think we're glad they did. And so, on that one, I get that people hate it. It's unpopular. I'm going to be protective of those landowner rights. And I've been fighting to try to make sure that landowners are remembered and taken care of. I don't want to say outright, we'll never do this, because I just, at some point we got to create energy. And if the federal government's going to keep telling us all the ways we can't create energy, at some point we need to figure out a way we can. And so I'm still thinking on that one.
Well, Scott says, thanks to both of you guys here. So for standing up for private
follow
landowner.
up on that is if it was a South Dakota entity and this power is going to stay in South Dakota and so on and so forth, and if they could prove that by using wind energy and solar to pump this water up, and then, as Will explained, at peak times down south, drop this water out and create positive energy. But everybody I talk to, it's energy negative to do
Exactly.
it.
It's like wind
and then
turbines.
on top of it, though, is what's it going to do to the riverbed when this thing comes out of there? I think they're 22-foot pipes, twin pipes that they dump this water out of, and it hits the riverbed. What's that going to do to the riverbed and all the siltation downstream and everything else?
Yeah.
So I don't like it at all. I've had to find anything I could get behind, and I try to go into things with open mind. I really do. I just struggle with that one. I haven't found anything yet.
Yeah. Well, we're dealing with the same thing. We have a big transmission line going through our ranch, connecting east and west part of the country, and they're going to use eminent domain because they feel it's a necessity to have this. So we're trying to work with them.
Is that the Green Power Express, or what line is that, Scott?
It is the I can't believe I forgot the name of it. It's the one that's hooking Colstrip up to south of Mandan, Colstrip, Montana, over to Mandan. It's the I can't remember the name of it right off the top of my head here, but it's during the winter time. They haven't been doing a whole lot of the they're working with landowners trying to figure out the right way to go through the Badlands of North Dakota, and it's just goofy, man. They originally proposed it right over the top of our branding corrals, and so it wasn't very well taken, for the most part here. But what do you do? I get it, but then again, eminent domain. It's either we try to work with them and get something out of them, whether it's a fence or maybe some trails or a bridge or something like that going through the area, or do you just let them come in and eminent domain and just put these big? I mean, it's going to look ugly out here. That's one thing about it. I mean, they're big electrical towers here, so it's not going to be a very nice view when we have it. But I suppose, guys, I'm going to let you both go. Thanks again. I'm going to go get my cows fed up here, and I got a bull sale over in Montana I got to head over to.
Well, Scott, before you go,
thank you, Scott.
You need to come down and hunt with us. We need to get you on coyote culture, get you on film, shoot some coyotes.
I'd love to do that. Yeah. I got to get back over and get some fishing with Brent Chemnitz up there in Mobridge, and
Yep.
I enjoy that area. I really do. I really like it. And I grew up by the res up in North Dakota side, right by the Standing Rock over. Shields, I guess, would have been the
Yep.
little
Yep. Or by Raleigh in that area.
Yeah, I was right between Raleigh and Shields there, right halfway in between there.
Gotcha.
And
yep.
Yeah, there's a redheaded white kid that went to this Indian church. So that was it was my dad used to take me down to Fort Yates for boxing. And it was hilarious because there's 4 guys sitting on chairs and they just tied ropes between the chairs, and that was the ring. And I mean, it was fun. I miss it, man. Gene Cox, the mayor of Mobridge. Mobridge is the culture center of the universe, he says.
All right, I got a kid getting
All right,
time out. I gotta go help.
You guys have a good
All
one.
right.
Catch you later.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it.
See ya.
You will.
All right, YouTube. Thanks for hanging with me, Waylon. It was a good time back home. Yeah. Growing up, it was awesome. All right, have yourself a good one. YouTube, thanks everything. Remember, tell people to subscribe, because the more subscribers, the more I can go and do like mobile things off of my phone on YouTube, and it would be kind of fun. Have a good one. Catch you later.